Hey, what's up guys? This is Oakley, and this is going to be an online battle that I played against an opponent. He is going to be the Egyptians. My build right here is again playing with the Seleucids. This was, I think, my second battle with the Seleucids. Wanted to highlight it because it's an interesting battle. Anyways, you can see right here how my build turned out is I have pretty good amount of spears, a lot of pikemen, 2 royal peltasts, and thorax swordsmen, because my main idea is to have some spears to hold up his spears, and then some relatively heavy infantry in the form of royal peltasts and thorax swordsmen to run around one of his flanks. And then I brought in some of the armored elephants because those were, I was hoping they would go around the flanks in combination with my swordsmen and just basically deliver a huge right hook to whatever force I have engaged with my pikes. And however, when the battle started though, I did see that he was basically charging all out with a bunch of cavalry, so this means that I'm just gonna have to alter my plans. I have to take care of these guys first. So these guys are going to be charging my troops initially, trying to see what I have in store and basically just mess with me. So I'm going to have to put my one and only archer group on the task of eliminating these guys, and at least I have them in the cover of the forest, so I'm going to be able to put on some shots and kill some of his men before before they can return fire. So I still have 90 men, and I weakened some of his horses. At the same time, one of my guys over there I know is going to get revealed, and he does. So his whole Ptolemaic wing over there is going to start chasing my men. And this is a problem because it means that obviously if he can catch my guys, that means a free unit destroyed on, well, for him. So what I have to do is go to the rescue of those guys. At the same time, I don't want to overcommit because I know his huge Galatian line is coming towards me. So my opponent's build is relatively straightforward. I can see what he's trying to do. He has skirmishing cavalry to get rid of any skirmishers and scout out the opponent. He follows that up with the Ptolemaic cavalry rush, and whatever chaos that ensues, he's going to go ahead and exploit that with the full-on rush of his infantry. It's pretty strong. I guess the only way I could counter it is maybe having a similar build my own and contending the cavalry fight. The main problem though is that he's brought a loud cavalry, so even though I have 3 of them right here, he's going to get the advantage, and the whole engagement is taking place too far away from my men, so I have to kind of reinforce piecemeal, as you can see here. But his Galatians are going to be close enough to come and reinforce. So what I'm going to do is try and knock out these guys here. I'm bringing in my elephants because I'm pretty sure they can even up the cavalry fight. Seeing this, my opponent is going to swing essentially everything to come reinforce this wing. So what started off as an initial chase is going to be a full-on engagement, and he's moving in with actually more of his elephants right here. So that's going to be sort of his similar plan to mine, where he's trying to tie down my forces and deliver a knockout blow with the heavy hand of his elephants. But what I've done more effectively than him in this engagement is actually move up my spears, which will sort of cancel out the effect of his elephants because I can fight those guys off, whereas my elephants don't really have any counter immediately at the moment. He has cavalry here, and my guys are just going to charge right in to his Ptolemaic cavalry, and I'm hoping they'll do enough damage that I can knock these guys out before his Galatians come in and before his elephants can get around the flank. So I'm going to be moving my spears in, chasing his elephants down, and moving in more of my swordsmen. At the same time, I'm trying to bring my general into the mix because I can see that's where the infantry fight is going to go down. At the same time here, I'm trying to basically make another front. My thinking at this point is, okay, let's knock out as many of his cavalry as possible and then try and make a cavalry retreat. Basically pull these guys out as quickly as possible. First bring them to my general. That's why I brought my general out, to kind of hold the center, and then retreat them all the way back to these forces here and create another front back here. So that's going to be my idea. My opponent is going to try and do everything possible to hold my guys down. His Galatians are basically going all out, trying to engage in this fight, but I know I'm going to have to pull out. So I start first by pulling out my cavalry here. My idea is to corner his skirmishers here on one end with my infantry, on the other with these cavalry forces here. So I'm desperately trying to pull them out, and it looks like his Galatians are just about to engage. And at this point, his Ptolemaic cavalry are still in the fight. My elephants, however, are going to be the most important. I don't want them thrown out, especially if I'm going to be engaging with his forces over there that are basically all swordsmen. I know elephants in a later part of the battle are going to be most crucial. Seeing how I'm disengaging, I'm in disarray, he's going to throw in his elephants. Now they're going to trample a lot of the men on both sides, so it's kind of a clusterfuck over there right now, and I'm starting to lose more and more men. But I know, look at my whole army on the bottom tab. Actually, not all my forces are engaged on that front, so I'm actually trying to reform my group, and over here is going to be the main line of battle. So I'm trying to extract as many of my forces from here as possible. It's basically hopeless for me to reinforce, and I guess that was my fault for not throwing in all of my guys. I guess I should have reinforced, and we would have arrived basically at the same time. his Galatians and my guys, we would have fought the battle there. In retrospect, that's probably what I should have done, but I figured that elephants knocking into his Ptolemaic cavalry would have been enough to knock them out before the Galatians moved in, as well as my spears, but those are actually very heavy cavalry, and they ended up holding their own for long enough. So now the name of the game is going to be getting these elephants back home. They're going to be sort of the only thing that can save my army here, because Galatians, of course, as you guys know, are very heavy infantry, and if I have any chance of holding out, I'm definitely going to have to get those elephants back home. My opponent, on the other hand, is going to try and stop me, so he has these cavalry here. They should actually be targeting my elephants, trying to get them to run amok, but also at the same time, those elephants are very heavily armored, so he's going to have a hard time doing it, and I'm moving in some forces here to try and support my guys. My opponent, as I said, is going to be trying to do everything he can to engage these guys, so I'm going to charge in with my elephants and scare his men off. His Galatians are on my tail, and it's going to be a very, very scary time for these elephants to get back home. I have my own skirmishers trying to hold up and ward his guys off, and these elephants are going to be running basically in front of his whole army, and yeah, I just barely catch some of his men. You can see the front elephant running over one of his horses, just like you would have seen in the third Lord of the Rings, where one of the Oliphants just runs over one of those poor horses. And I'm actually hoping someone can reskin these elephants into those elephants. That would actually be very, very cool. Anyways, I'm retreating my guys here. You can see my people in the back were absolutely slaughtered. No one survived except for these elephants. As I said, in retrospect, I should have reinforced. Something I'm going to tell you right now that I didn't want to say at the offset of the battle is that actually when I started this battle, I was kind of doing my homework, waiting for the quick battle to commence, and so when I looked up for my homework, I actually only had 30 seconds left in the countdown, and so I had to select my forces really quick, and so I ended up actually entering the battle without using 1,000 denarii, so I'm actually down in terms of units. I'm not sure how that would have affected the battle. You know, in retrospect, I'd like to say that, you know, with that additional amount of money, I could have invested in cavalry, maybe another group of elephants. I could have maybe won that fight in the force, but I think actually in retrospect the biggest error that I had in this battle was probably not sending all my forces over there to contend with his attack there. I should have reinforced, or on the other hand, I should have just drawn back my cavalry. But it's kind of hard to call these things, you know, if maybe I can do another battle similarly, I would have probably kept that cavalry on force that I had all the way on the wings, reinforced them with spearmen. That's something I always tell you guys to do, is actually never leave a contingent of your forces all alone without having some sort of supporting force. So usually when I have skirmishers on the flank, I reinforce them with some sort of spears and some sort of cavalry. So that's something that I should do. I forgot it in this battle, and it's something that I'm going to remember to do in future battles, and something that you should actually learn from in terms of my mistakes is going to be trying to have something on your flanks. If you're going to try a flanking ambush, always have something in the vicinity that can support your troops, and this battle is going to be a prime example of why you probably need spears to reinforce even cavalry on the flank. Anyways, what I'm trying to do to salvage this situation is reposition my men. You can see here he's going for double envelopment, but what that has done is it's left some of his guys exposed, so what I'm going to do is turn these guys around and try and have them actually hold off all his Galatians on that side, while at the same time I run in with these elephants here and try and knock out his men. And you can see some of his Galatians down here have actually been exposed, so I have numerical superiority, but he is pulling them away. So what I'm going to try and do is hold off his men with my spears. That's what they do best from the front, and at the same time knock over, run over, trample all the men that he has left over here. The elephants are kind of getting the best of both of our men, so I'm going to try and pull them off to the left. He gets some cavalry into the fight, so I'm going to try and move these spearmen into support. At the same time, however, my opponent did choose a very good build. It's pretty versatile, and just the number of Galatians he has, of course they're very good infantry, and he was able to get around the sides of my men just because he has so many forces. He's going to get his own elephants into the mix, and that's actually a pretty funny engagement. Keep an eye on the health of my own elephants. They're actually going to be doing very well. They are larger elephants than his African elephants, and they're heavily armored, so even though they're tired, they're still going to do very, very well. Actually, when I browsed over them, they weren't that tired. Yeah, he's going to be continuing the envelopment. I'm going to move in my Royal Peltis. I know they're very good in melee, and they can probably hold up to his Galatians, especially if I have elephants in the mix. So I'm going to try and engage them in a strategic position, get them around the flanks of his men. Same time, I got to ward off his cavalry with my spear, so that's why I'm pulling these guys through here to try and fight his elephants that are in the mix and ward off his cavalry that are moving around here. I'm going to try and get these guys into the flank here. My opponent at this point is actually going to charge right through and nab some of my skirmishers here. I'm able to get my spears into the mess, But it's his general unit. They're part of Ptolemaic cavalry, and they're going to do a lot of damage to my guys. Not that the skirmishers are that important at this point in time, but it just means another unit routing, another morale debuff to my guys. So here he's going to finish up the envelopment. The Galatians are coming to the back. They're going to engage with my guys here. In the center, we have an overall brawl. My elephants have basically died. So we have a bunch of elephants going amok in here, and it's a big mess. My spears are doing everything they can to sort of have their spears facing outwards, but with those elephants in the mess, with cavalry in the back, with swordsmen infiltrating their lines, it's not going to hold up for very long. So I'd like to give big pat on the back to my opponent for his build. I think it's a very strong build. Again, I said, there's a little bit of a grain of salt to this in the fact that I didn't have that additional amount of money, and that I had a little bit of a strategic lapse in terms of leaving that one cavalry group exposed, not reinforcing them. Not that that excuses my loss, but it's something that I think I try and bring to my losses to say, okay, how could we have done better? And I think, my build wasn't too bad, but perhaps the placement of my troops and some of the decisions I made were not the greatest. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Thanks so much. See ya.